Isaiah
Read.
chapter 28 and verse 9. Whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast.
He said those that understand the basics, the milk of the Bible, them will he teach wisdom and knowledge. Go ahead.
For precept must be upon precept.
In order to get that knowledge, you must start with the basics, and then you must understand precept must be upon precept. Why? Because when you're reading it, it's a parable, it's a story. So you got to go one place for the explanation of why the Lord used that word there. Then you got to go to another place for why he used this. And then you start to put the stories together. You say, when the Lord referenced at that time, he was clear with that prophet. He told that prophet that a tree meant man, but he told the other prophet that a tree was just a tree. Now I can connect the two and I see, okay, trees mean man. Beast means this. Okay, I'm starting to get clarity on what the Bible says. So in order to understand it, that's why he said in verse 9, read it again.
Whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast.
Read.
For precept must be upon precept.
In order to understand these parables, these illustrated stories, in order to understand these dark sayings, precept must be upon precept. There's no other way you're going to understand it. I didn't give every prophet everything. I gave each prophet a little bit, and you're going to have to connect the dots.
Warm, gotta pick a side. Who am I?
The title of the class is called The Spiritual Eyes of the Gods. The Spiritual Eyes of the Gods. All right? Let's start at 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 1.
2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 1.
Uh-oh. Let's go.
This second epistle, beloved, I now write unto you, in both which I stir up your pure minds by way of remembrance.
Okay.
That ye may be mindful of the words which were spoken before by the holy prophets, and of the commandments of us, the apostles of the Lord and Savior.
So the Bible was written for us to be mindful of the things that were written before time. So Peter's writing this letter. He's saying, look, everything that you're reading here, I want you to remember what happened in the Old Testament, what happened in the first 5 books of the Bible. I want you to remember what happened in Joel, Amos, all these things. Tie it together. Don't forget it out of your mind. So he always had to put the people in remembrance of what happened aforetime. Go ahead.
Knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts.
So today's Sunday. Tomorrow we all got work. So we know we're going to run into scoffers walking after their own lusts as soon as we go to work tomorrow, right? There's going to be people that say, hey, man, the Lord ain't coming back. Why you got them fringes on your shirt? Let's whoremonger, right? You're going to hear those type of conversations. You're going to hear things about sports and LeBron. You're going to hear things about what's going on with the war. All carnal conversation, right? So Peter had to make sure that the people, when they went out and they dealt with the world, they were strengthened in the spirit. That's his point. Go ahead.
And saying, where is the promise of his command if it's coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation.
So it says, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, meaning since they died, right, all things continue as they are. So regardless of what you think about, most people, this is their mindset. They're like, yo, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to go to work, I'm going to go to sleep. There's no thought of Christ and what's going on in the Bible. There's no thought of what's going on in prophecy. There's nowhere else that you're going to get the understanding of what's happening in the world. So Peter had to remind the people, you're going to deal with people whose mindset is Christ ain't coming back. Let's just keep getting this money. Let's go to work. That's all you should be worried about. And when you are in the world for a period of time, this is the type of spirit that you will develop. So the point he wanted to do was what? Bring them back to the Bible always. Anytime that they read the Bible, he wanted to bring them back. So I always like to start with that because we got to be mindful of what the purpose of classes is and what's the purpose of us reading the Bible to begin with. It's to put us in remembrance of who we are and the things that happened before we even got to this point so we can know where we're going to go next, right? Romans chapter 7 and verse 14. I got to do a whole class on 2 Peter 3, though. Keep saying that. Maybe tomorrow's the day. Romans chapter 7 and verse 14.
Romans chapter 7 and verse 14.
Then I got a question.
For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin.
Okay. One of the newer brothers, tell me what that means.
Shalom, sir. Brother Miko.
Yes, sir.
So it's saying that the law is in itself is spiritual. So He says, I am carnal, which is the physical form.
So what does that mean about the law?
About the law?
You hit it. You starting to hit it. You getting there.
So the law is within
If he's physical and he's carnal, what is the law then?
the law is spiritual.
Okay, meaning what? Dig in.
It's within us. If we keep it, we have to. I'm nuking this one. I'm sorry about that.
Nah, you ain't bad. All right, somebody help him. Now give me somebody with some experience. He got us to where we need to be. The things that we do on a daily basis are carnal. They're physical, right? But the law is spiritual. You can give it to a brother that's been here. You give it MOV or Ariel gonna cheat.
Shalom, sir. It means keeping the law, basically. So I'll take it.
Correct. But then in terms of like when it says it's spiritual, what's that relating to? He said there's a physical part of us, and then what else? What's the law saying? What does the law deal with? What part of us?
So
Yes, correct. That's the point. That's what he's saying. He's saying the law. You got it. You can sit down. So he's saying the law, right? It affects us on a spiritual level, on our soul level. But we operate typically day to day on a carnal level. Right? Remember the topic of the class is the spiritual eyes of the God. So when we go to work, when we move around, we looking at things on a physical, earthly level. That's how we viewing everything. We viewing everything around us like this brother or that guy or this situation, not realizing these are spirits. Right? Read it again. Watch.
Romans chapter 7 and verse 14. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin.
All right, give me Isaiah 34 and 16. He said, I am spiritual, right? He said, for the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin, right? So watch this, Isaiah 34 and verse 16.
Isaiah chapter 34 and verse 16.
Let's see how spiritual it is.
Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read.
So this book is known as the book of the Lord. Go ahead.
No one of these shall fail.
He said nothing that you read out of this book is going to fail. If you read the prophecies, if you read anything from the Old Testament, just as sure as we are that our people went into slavery, everything else that's written in this book is going to happen. Go ahead.
None shall want her mate.
Nothing is going to mate with her, right? She ain't got no boyfriend, right? The spirit ain't got nothing that can compare to it. You understand? That's the point he's making. Go ahead.
For my mouth it hath commanded.
Go ahead.
And his spirits.
And his spirit, read it again.
And his spirits it have gathered them.
His spirit there is going into the Lord's spirit, gathered this book. So when we say this book is spiritual, it's saying that the Lord's spirit is in these words. So when you read these words, we got to understand what we're getting. On a spiritual level, you're connecting with Christ. It's his spirit. That's what gathered these words. The spirit of Christ put these different words together, the books, all the prophets, everything that's being said. It's not something we should look at and play with. It's a spiritual book, right? Read the next verse.
Verse 17. And he hath cast the lot for them, and his hand hath divided it unto them by line.
Go ahead.
They shall possess it forever.
He's saying the Bible. These words are for the Israelites forever. This is their book for them to be for them to deal with spiritually forever. That's the point he's making. Right? So read it again.
And he hath cast the lot for them, and his hand hath divided it unto them by line. They shall possess it forever. From generation to generation shall they dwell therein.
So from generation to generation, they would have the Bible. Give me Romans chapter 14 and verse 7. Actually, give me Ecclesiastes 12 and 12 first. Give me that. Ecclesiastes 12 and 12. So this Bible is a spiritual book. We often read it, right? We look at it. We're like, yo, it's carnal, right? It's a physical thing. I'm touching it. But this is spiritual. This is a spiritual book you're going into. Read that.
Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 12. And further, by these, my son, be admonished, of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh.
He said to read a bunch of books is just weariness to the flesh. Right? Y'all ever been to school, you just get tired of reading, you fall asleep on a book? He said that's what it's like. He said it's just weariness. It's no benefit to reading book after book after book after book. Right? That doesn't benefit your spirit. That's the point he's making. All the other books you read in your life, they never benefited your spirit. Because they didn't have the words of God. Unless they had the words of God and your identity and who you were and what was going on to you, they weren't benefiting you spiritually. This is the only book that we have to lean on so we can understand what benefits us spiritually. So he said, reading other books is just a weariness of the flesh. Go ahead.
Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man.
The place where we find out our whole duty and what we need to be focused on is the Bible. That's where we figure out how to guide our soul, how to govern it, how to move, how to operate. This is a spiritual book. These are spiritual instructions for how you govern your soul, how you govern your soul. But oftentimes we read it and we walking in the flesh still, right? Romans chapter 14 and verse 7. So we got it, but we just walk in the flesh. We walking on. We like, hey, man, I don't understand what you mean. I'm carnal. Romans 14 and 7.
Romans chapter 14 and verse 7. For none of us liveth to himself, and no man dieth to himself.
Go ahead.
For whether we live unto the Lord.
If we live unto the Lord. That's what we got to understand. You ain't a product of yourself, right? You live unto the Lord, meaning what? You are living because Christ allows you to live. You live unto the Lord. Go ahead.
And whether we die unto the Lord.
If we die, you die because the Lord said you were going to die. You're not in charge of yourself. But carnally, that's what we think. We forget the spiritual aspect of things. We think, hey, I could do whatever I want. I don't have to be connected to this. And that's what many people in the world, that's how their mindset is, right? God ain't coming back. I ain't got to worry about the Bible. They're disconnected from who they are. Go ahead.
Whether we live, therefore, or die, we are the Lord.
Whether you live or die, you belong to the Lord. So when you understand that, now you understand how spiritual this book is, because you belong to the Lord anyway. So are you going to do the Lord's instructions, or are you not going to do the Lord's instructions, right? Give me Romans chapter 8 verse 16 now.
Romans chapter 8 and verse 16. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God.
All right, one of the brothers, help me out. Come on, y'all. What's the Spirit there now in verse 16?
Shalom leadership, Brother Deli. The Spirit is God.
The Spirit is God? No. Remember what we read earlier. What was the Spirit? In Isaiah 34 and 16, what was the Spirit?
The Spirit is the law.
You're not wrong. It's the Bible.
The Bible.
You're not wrong. It's the Bible. Okay, so I'll take it. You can sit down. I'll take it. So the Spirit, right, is the Bible, because the Lord put this together. It's his Spirit that put this together. So read Romans 8 and 16 again.
Romans chapter 8 and verse 16. The Spirit itself bear witness with our spirit that we are the children of God.
So when we read this Bible, we identify it with it, right? We say, you know what? It talks about slavery. My people went into slavery. It talks about oppression. We face oppression. It talks about loss of identity. I don't know my identity. I don't know who my grandmother is. I don't know who my grandfather's father was, right? I don't know none of these people. I don't have an idea of what my history and my nationality is. Then we read the Bible. We read Jeremiah 17 and says, look, you'll forget your heritage. You go, oh, that's me. You read the Bible, you say Solomon said, I'm black and beautiful. Oh, black people say that. You read the Bible, you say, we were going to slavery on ships. Oh, that connects with me. That happened to me. So our spirit bears witness with the spirit of the Bible. Give me John chapter 14 and verse 17. So when you read the Bible, you got to understand it's a spiritual book. In order for you to connect to it, your spirit must bear witness with the spirit of the Bible. That's why y'all are here. You think you just pick up a book and read it every day, but the only reason you're connected to it is because spiritually there's something going on that you don't see on a carnal level, right? So that's what we got to start looking at. Remember the title, Spiritual Eyes of the Gods. Go ahead, read it when you got it.
John chapter 14 and verse 17. Even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it seeth him not.
The world cannot receive it because they don't see Christ. Read it one more time.
Even the Spirit of truth.
The Spirit of truth is going to the laws, right? That's Psalms 119, 142. For time's sake, we're going to keep it moving. But that's the truth. Go ahead.
Whom the world cannot receive.
The world cannot receive the Spirit of truth, which was in Christ. They didn't receive Christ. They didn't receive that Spirit. Go ahead.
Because it seeth him not.
Because it what?
Because it seeth him not.
So there are many people who cannot see spiritually. Their eyes are closed spiritually. Even though they have the Bible, even though they go to church every Sunday, even though they hoot and holler, they go dun 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 dun, they dance, they do all of that, but they don't see what's in the Bible. They don't have a spirit of truth. Go ahead.
Neither knoweth him, but ye know him, for he dwelleth with you.
Because he dwell where?
For he dwelleth with you.
Read.
And shall be in you.
So the Spirit of Christ is supposed to dwell in you and be with you, right? Proverbs 1 and verse 23. That's what's supposed to happen. That's what's supposed to happen to you guys that's waking up. That's understanding who you are. A carnal man, right? The Lord ain't dealing with him. The Lord ain't dealing with Edomite. He ain't dealing with a Moabite. He ain't dealing with Ishmael. He ain't dealing with the Palestinians. He's not dealing with none of them people. His spirit cannot dwell with them. It's not possible. We'll get into that later. But his spirit can't dwell with them. So when you read this Bible, you got to understand it's a spiritual book, and his spirit is supposed to dwell in you. Read that.
Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 23. Turn ye at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit.
He'll pour out what?
I will pour out my spirit unto you.
He said, I'm going to pour out my spirit unto you, you prophets, you Israelites. I'm going to put my spirit. Your spirit connects with my spirit. You read the Bible, you say you went into slavery on ships, but that ain't all I got for you. That ain't it. I'm going to show you what's in the Bible. I'm going to show you what you need to do. I'm going to show you how you need to move, what you need not to eat, how to take care of your family. I'm going to show you everything. This is the book so you can connect back to my spirit. But we don't look at it with spiritual eyes. We often look at it carnal. We go in there and we read it for rank, right? We read it for how can we get ahead in terms of position, right? We look at it for how can I know more than the next person. So when I go have an argument, I want to know more than this person in the argument. That's not what this book is for. It's for you to spiritually connect. It's something else happening on a deeper level. We can't use it carnally. That's what we can't do. Jump back to Romans, read Romans 8 and verse 16 one more time.
Romans chapter 8 and verse 16. The Spirit
The Spirit is the Bible. The laws of God. Christ's Spirit dwelling in you. That's what it's going into. Right? Go ahead.
itself beareth witness with our spirits.
Read.
That we are the children of God.
Read.
And if children, then heirs.
If we're the children of God, then we're heirs to the throne. That's what you men are. You heirs to the throne. Meaning all the world has been given unto you. But with great power comes great responsibility. Right? It's easy to say I'm an heir to the throne and everything is for me and I'm going to be ruling everything. And we ain't looking at things spiritually. Christ's spirit is viewing things spiritually. Right? Read Psalms 82 and verse 1. Watch what he said. That's how he views things. We're going to go back to that and read it. We heirs with Christ. When we read that, we got to understand what he's saying there. Psalms 82 and 1.
Psalm chapter 82 and verse 1. God standeth in the congregation of the mighty.
Of the who?
Of the mighty.
That's what you men are. He said, I stand in the congregation of the mighty. Go ahead.
He judgeth among the gods.
Among who?
Among the gods.
Who's the gods in that verse? Somebody help me out.
Shalom, sir. Brother Isaiah. Down in verse 6, it says, I have said, ye are gods, so the children of Israel are gods.
Correct. That's the point he's making. So the children of Israel are the gods. So he said, I judge it among the gods. So he's saying, I'm the king of kings. You know why he says that? Because he's the king amongst a nation of kings. The Lord of lords. Y'all are lords, but he's the greatest Lord of us all. You know why? Because his spirit is the spirit we must be connected to. He's the one that leads, we follow. So when you say you're heirs to the throne, it means that spiritually you're going to be connected with Christ. You're going to be a God just like he is. But we read this book and we got carnal minds. Read that. Go back to it. Romans 8 and verse 17. Read it again.
Romans chapter 8 and verse 17. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ. If so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together.
He said, if we suffer with him, we'll be glorified with him, right? So we the children of this book. Our spirit bears witness. So being children, right? Read Psalms chapter 78, verse 1. We got to understand how we connect with this spirit. Because many of us, when we look at this book, we say, all right, I got it. I understand now. Deuteronomy 28, right? I understand, I got to keep this law. I'm good to go. But there's a way that this spirit communicates with your spirit. It's not how you want to. Like how we having a regular conversation right now. That's not how the Bible, how the spirit of the Lord is going to deal with you. It's not how it talks to you. Psalm 78 and 1. Watch.
Psalm chapter 70 and verse 1.
78 and 1.
Psalm chapter 78 and verse 1. Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth.
Read.
I will open my mouth in a parable.
He said, I will open my mouth in a what?
In a parable.
Uh-huh.
I will utter dark sayings of old.
A parable is an illustrated story. Meaning in order for the Lord to give you understanding, when he opens up the law and he tries to make you have understanding, he's going to tell it in a short story form. It's not going to be direct. It's not going to be, hey, just walk over here and do what you need to do. That's not how he dealt with the prophets. But many times we read the Bible, we're like, yo, the Lord's going to deal with me on a basic level. I don't got to study. I don't got to dig deep. In order for us to connect with the Spirit of the Lord, we got to understand how he's going to communicate with us. The way he's going to communicate with us, if we have spiritual eyes, is he's going to utter it in parables. Short story form. So guess what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to say, let me look at the story and start to understand, what does this represent a story? What does that represent a story? That's how these things are done. Read verse 2 again.
I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old,
Read.
which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. We will not hide them from their children.
He said, we will not hide these dark sayings, these stories from our children, which means what? When they come, they're going to be dark. But then they would get understanding through the Spirit of the Lord, and they would teach them to their children. They would show their children, this looked like this, but this is what it actually meant. Even though they say this is what this meant, and this is what this represented in the story. And even though it said trees in Genesis, it wasn't talking about trees. It was talking about men. That's how the Bible was communicated to the Israelites. There were short stories. Read.
Showing to the generation to come the praises of the Lord and his strength and his wonderful works that he hath done.
It was going to explain what the Lord would do in the end. It was going to explain what the Lord had done in the past, but it was going to come in a dark saying. It was going to come in parables. Hosea chapter 12, verse 10. Let's see if Hosea had a different mindset in terms of how he would get the understanding. Remember, the children would get understanding from their forefathers through parables and dark sayings. Their forefathers would understand the parables and dark sayings, and then they would teach them to their kids. That's what he said there. Read that.
Hosea chapter 12 and verse 10. I have also spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions.
I multiply what?
And I have multiplied visions.
Read.
And use similitudes.
Similitude is a comparison or an analogy. So the Lord would say, I'm looking at a tree and it stands tall. But the tree would mean what? A person. Or I would say the sons of men are like beasts. But he's referring to what? He's saying beast there, but he's referring to men, right? I would liken them unto a beast, meaning men. Or Peter in a vision. He saw a vision and he said, not so, Lord, I will not eat anything unclean. What he was saying in that vision was men. This is how the Lord communicates his spirit with his prophets, with the Israelites, in similitudes. Right? Read that verse again.
I have also spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets.
So the prophets got similitudes or analogies, comparisons. That's how they were able to understand things. The Lord was showing one thing, but that's not what it meant. It meant something else. So when you read the Bible, that's what's happening. This is a spiritual book. You can't just pick it up and say, I'm going to read it by myself and I understand it. It said tree there. It didn't mean tree. Now you're confused. Now your breakdown is a tree breakdown. It got nothing to do with a tree. That's why the Christian church got what they got today. That's why they're telling you Adam and Eve was walking around butt naked, eating apples in the wilderness, and that's what Adam did. And his sin was eating the apple. It's because they cannot read the Bible and get the understanding, because it's a spiritual book. So you all are supposed to be the gods on earth, the spiritual men that get this book and you understand the similitudes and the parables. Give me Wisdom of Solomon, start at chapter 8 and read verse 1. That's who you all are.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8 and verse 1. Wisdom reacheth from one end to another mightily, and sweetly doth she order all things.
Read.
I loved her, and sought her out from my youth. I desired to make her my spouse, and I was a lover of her beauty. In that she is conversant with God, she magnifieth her nobility. Yea, the Lord of all things himself loved her.
He said wisdom, it has a conversation with God. So wisdom, the spirit of wisdom is dealing with the Father, and then you're able to get wisdom. That's the point it's making. You get wisdom from the Bible. That spirit is conversing with God, meaning it's directly connected to the Father. That's what it's making reference to. Go ahead, verse 4.
For she is privy to the mysteries of the knowledge of God.
She is aware of the mysteries of the knowledge of God. Go ahead.
And a lover of his works.
Read.
If riches be a possession to be desired in this life, what is richer than wisdom that worketh all things?
Wisdom works in all things. Wisdom is through everything in this earth. Everything started with a thought. When you're spiritual, you understand that. The microphone started with a thought. Somebody said, I want noise amplified. The picture started with a thought. Somebody said, I want this picture. I want to take this image of what's happening with me forever. Everything started with a thought. So wisdom understands that it moves through everything. Go ahead.
And if prudence work, who of all that is a more cunning workman than she?
Read.
And if a man love righteousness, her labors are virtues. For she teacheth temperance and prudence. justice, and fortitude, which are such things as men can have nothing more profitable in their life.
Said wisdom will teach you virtue, high moral excellence, things that you can't even put a value on. You couldn't put a value on knowing how to deal with your brother. Loving your neighbor as you love yourself. You can't put a value on that. You can't put a value on knowing how to properly raise children. You can't put money on that. You can't say how much you would pay to properly know how to raise the next generation. So what he's telling you is the wisdom of his Bible will show you that. But watch verse 8. Watch what it says.
If a man desire much experience, she knoweth things of old, and conjectureth aright what is to come.
She can tell you prophecy. She can guess what's going to happen. She can tell you with accuracy this is going to happen next. Go ahead.
She knoweth the subtleties of speeches, and can expound dark sentences.
Go ahead.
She foreseeth signs and wonders, and the events of seasons and times.
So with the wisdom of the Bible, you can start to understand those dark sentences and those parables. You can start to see things clearly, but you have to be connected to the spirit of wisdom. You're not going to be able to do that just because you in here and you know a couple precepts. That's not how this works. You can't just pick up the Bible and say, yo, I read this, therefore I understand. There's a spirit in this book. If you're not connected with the spirit, you'll not be able to break anything down out of it. You won't be able to explain a thing. You'll have lack of clarity, which will lead to lack of confidence, which will lead to you leaving eventually because you're not connected to the spirit of this book. That's what he's saying to you. And if you're connected to wisdom, wisdom will teach you, hey, this is what this dog saying is saying. This is what this parable means. This is how you get clarity, right? Isaiah chapter 28 verse 9.
Isaiah
Read.
chapter 28 and verse 9. Whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast.
He said those that understand the basics, the milk of the Bible, them will he teach wisdom and knowledge. Go ahead.
For precept must be upon precept.
In order to get that knowledge, you must start with the basics, and then you must understand precept must be upon precept. Why? Because when you're reading it, it's a parable. It's a story. So you got to go one place for the explanation of why the Lord used that word there. Then you got to go to another place for why he used this. And then you start to put the stories together. And you say, when the Lord referenced at that time, he was clear with that prophet. He told that prophet that a tree meant man. But he told the other prophet that a tree was just a tree. Now I can connect it to when I see, okay, trees mean man. Beast means this. Okay, I'm starting to get clarity on what the Bible says. So in order to understand it, that's why he said in verse 9, read it again.
Whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast.
Read.
For precept must be upon precept.
In order to understand these parables, these illustrated stories, in order to understand these dark sayings, precept must be upon precept. There's no other way you're going to understand it. I didn't give every prophet everything. I gave each prophet a little bit, and you're going to have to connect the dots. You're going to have to go into my spirit and be able to understand which things to connect. So he said precept must be upon precept. Read.
Precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line. Here a little and there a little.
You'll get a little clarity here. You'll get a little clarity there. You'll get a little more clarity over here. Put it all together, you understand the full picture of what I'm doing. That's what the Lord is saying. Go ahead.
For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people.
Read.
To whom he said, this is the rest wherewith ye may cause the weary to rest, and this is the refreshing. Yet they would not hear. But the word of the Lord was unto them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little, that they might go and fall backward.
So on the other side, for the carnal man, it was done intentionally that it was precept upon precept because he wanted them to go and do what? Read it again.
That they might go and fall backward.
Read.
And be broken.
Read.
And snared and taken.
So the Bible is written precept upon precept because the Lord knows that the Christian church is not able to do that. So he wants them to be caught up in lies and foolishness. He wants them to read the Bible like it's a storybook, like it's a novel, straight from the top down, and say, this is what this means, and it don't mean that. It was designed to be a trap to one nation and righteousness and salvation to you. That's what this is. This is a spiritual book. It was done intentionally. That's why you can't just pick it up and say, I'm going to get the understanding of something. It don't work that way. You must be connected with the Spirit of Christ. You got to understand what he's doing with this book. He letting the Christian church confuse themselves. He letting the Muslims, when they pick it up, confuse themselves. He letting that deep pro-black person pick it up and confuse themselves. And then when the spiritual man picks it up, they can see clearly by reading precept upon precept what the parable was saying, what the dark saying was saying. That's what we got to understand. But if we don't understand how to read it, we don't understand what the Lord is doing, we'll read it like a Christian. We'll read it like the pro-black dude. And we won't have any understanding of what it's actually saying to our spirit. Read.
Verse 13. But the word of verse 14. Wherefore hear the word of the Lord, ye scornful men that rule this people, which
You can
is
stop there. So give me Matthew chapter. Actually, give me Matthew 13 and 9.
Matthew chapter 13 and verse 9. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear.
Christ said that because everybody didn't have the ability to understand. So he said, whoever have ears to hear, let him hear. Go ahead.
And the disciples came and said unto him, why speakest thou unto them in parables?
Into illustrated stories. When Christ walked the earth, he didn't give nobody understanding clearly. Not everybody. Let me say it that way. He didn't give everybody he wasn't walking around saying this means this and this means that. He would expound to a specific group of people. That's who you men are. But when we don't look at the Bible spiritually, you be like, oh man, I'm deep in the ruts. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to guide myself. I don't know how to move. So he said, if you got an ear, hear it. Everybody wasn't able to hear it. Everybody's not able to understand Deuteronomy 28 and give clarity on what's going on there. Everybody's not able to understand the things that we read and say, okay, I understand what's going on here. So the Lord was speaking to them on parables because of what we just read. For some people, it's designed to be a trap. Go ahead.
He answered and said unto them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given.
Plain, that's why. We read in Isaiah 28. He said the parable is there because some of them, they not going to have my spirit in them. I want them to be confused. The kingdom of heaven is shut to them, so they're not going to get it. They're not going to be able to look in this Bible with clarity and get it. So if things open up to you, right, you're going to have to do it the spiritual way. For things to open up to you, you're not going to be able to do it the carnal way. Just come in here, pick up the book, read the entire thing, and say, you know what? I got spiritual eyes now. I can see everything. I understand everything. I get it now. That's not how this works. There's a spirit in this book. In order for the Lord to open understanding to you, you have to move with it a certain way. He said everybody wouldn't be given the kingdom. That's the point. You have something, officer?
Yeah, let me lay it back off. You go to Mark chapter 4, verse 11. We're going to read 11 and 12.
Mark chapter 4 and verse 11. And he said unto them, unto you it is given to know the mystery of the kingdom of God.
So unto you, you men sitting right here, unto you is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of God, right? Read.
But unto them that are without.
Stop. To them that are without. What are they without? Without fear, right? Psalms 111 and 10, right? Without fear. They have no faith. They're without fear of the Lord, right? Read that.
Psalms chapter 111 and verse 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
So the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, right? Now go back to Mark chapter 4, verse 11.
Mark chapter 4 and verse 11. And he said unto them, unto you it is given to know the mystery of the kingdom of God. But unto them
that are without fear, right? Read.
Unto them that are without, all these things are done in parables.
That's what JDL said. All these things are done in parables. Here a little bit, there a little bit. Here a little bit in the Old Testament, there a little bit in the New Testament. Read.
That seeing they may see.
They can look all day. Read.
And not perceive.
Read.
And hearing they may hear and not understand.
They can hear all day. You can read to them John 3:16 all day. You can read Matthew 5:17 to them all day. They will not understand. Read.
Lest at any time they should be converted and their sins should be forgiven them.
There you go.
Oh, praises. Give me Isaiah 52 and 15. Right on point. Watch this.
Isaiah chapter 52 and verse 15. So shall he sprinkle many nations. The king shall shut their mouths at him.
Read.
For that which had not been told them shall they see.
Shall they see? Referring to you men. The kings ain't able to see what y'all see. The ruling powers on the earth. Think about it, y'all. If the Bible says the eagle would take the nation of Israel into slavery, and I'm the devil on earth, why would I make the eagle my symbol? Why would I do that? I would say, you know what? Let me not make the eagle my symbol. They know that's what I want to use. Let me use a bear. Let me use a panda. Let me use a monkey. Whatever else. Anything else. Not the eagle. Somebody in the room would have said, yo, don't use the eagle. But everybody in the room said, you know what would be good? That eagle, boy. Let's use that bold eagle. Read that verse again. It's because they can't see spiritually. Read it again.
Verse 15. So shall he sprinkle many nations. The kings shall shut their mouths at him. For that which had not been told them shall they see. And that which they had not heard shall they consider.
The way that they're going to understand it is through you men. The world don't know what's happening on a spiritual level. That's what you got to understand. The world don't know what the end time looks like. The only people that know is the men that's connected spiritually to the Bible. Give me Matthew chapter 26 and verse 41. That's the only people. That's why the class is called the spiritual eyes of the gods. Y'all got to understand, y'all the only ones with the eyes to see and the ears to hear. So you got to take your studying serious, like your life depends on it, because it does. Your life depends on this. You might think you were designed to do something else, play basketball, be a good construction worker, be deep. You were created to keep the laws of God and be spiritual, the spiritual connection to the Father on earth. He said, you would be my witnesses. You would be my ambassadors. Shalom. Hey, bruh. Hey, sis. You've been watching for a whole 15 minutes. You still ain't subscribed yet? Go ahead and hit that button down at the bottom of the page. All right, I'm going to shut my black lips. You get back to the class. Most High in Christ bless. Read that.
Verse 31.
Matthew 26 and 41.
Matthew chapter 26 and verse 41. Watch and pray.
He said, watch, meaning have your spiritual eyes open. Pay attention to what's going on. Go ahead.
That ye enter not into temptation.
He said, watch and pray. So watch, pay attention to what's going on, and pray. Connect to me, that you may not fall into sin. That's what the temptation is. Because many of us, the reason we're unable to see is sin. Right? Sirach chapter 33 and verse 10. Well, we got to understand with us being the gods and having spiritual eyes, guess what was created with you? A nemesis. Right? An evil like no other. If they're gods and people that's supposed to rule the earth like no other, there got to be a nemesis like no other. Somebody that understands the book and somebody that's so good at making up lies that people will believe them. Somebody that know how to paint a Jesus with a white naked baby and make the whole world believe that's what God looks like. Gotta have that. I can't just have one way. Give me Sirach 33 and 10. It's going to explain.
Sirach chapter 33 and verse 10. And all men are from the ground, and Adam was created of earth. And much knowledge the Lord hath divided them, and made their ways diverse.
So when the Lord made men, he divided them. He made the sons of God, the sons of men, and the sons of the wicked. What I'm concerned with is the two polar opposites. The sons of God, which is us, and the sons of the wicked, which is Edom. Go ahead.
Some of them hath he blessed and exalted, and some of them hath he sanctified, and set near himself.
Read.
But some of them hath he cursed, and brought low, and turned out of their places.
Some of them he made them strangers and vagabonds on the earth. Some of them he cast them down. He said, you'll never be anything to me. What have you to do with my law? What we got to understand is where we stand with this. Because he said there's two men of people I'm dealing with. One that's on the bottom of society that I'm going to cast out and they're going to be a stranger. And one group of people I'm dealing with to exalt and lift up high. Go ahead.
As the clay is in the potter's hand, to fashion it at his pleasure. So man is in the hand of him that made him, to render to them as liketh him best.
So it's up to God which side of the fence that we're going to fall on. Watch what he says.
Good is set against evil.
That's how the Lord designed it from the beginning. He said, I'm going to set good against evil. When I created Adam, I made him a nemesis. I gave him somebody that was going to be against him. Even though I was going to give him spiritual understanding, he was going to be able to see what was going on spiritually and judge the earth correctly. I needed somebody that can deceive him. I needed someone with the understanding of how to trick him, how to make him feel like he's less than. I needed somebody to put him in a position of being on the bottom. I needed somebody that was capable of closing his eyes with lies. Good is set against evil. Go ahead.
And life against death. So is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly.
Read.
So look upon all the works of the Most High, and there are 2 and 2, one against another.
The Lord said, in everything that I created, there's two and two, one against the other. I always make the positive and I make the negative. We need evil in order to know what good is. I'm going to say it again so y'all understand. Evil is necessary in order for you to know what good is. If there was no evil, you would not know what good is. So the reason you're in these bodies understanding what evil is so that when you rule good, you know what good is. It's clear that you were the good guys. It's clear that you're supposed to be in a position that you're supposed to be in. The reason Adam fell is because he couldn't see good and evil. He didn't understand, right, what evil looked like. But now you're learning what evil looks like and to avoid it so that you can be like the Most High in mind. He said good is set against evil. Everything I create, I got to create evil on the earth. So that's why you have the temptation of sin, right? Give me that clip. Let's play that clip.
We're by appointment only.
I got a card from this store.
Congratulations, you have a mailbox. The exhibition isn't for 2 weeks.
This one was under the windshield wiper of my car.
How certain are you that you've never taken ill?
75%?
Well, that's not certain at all, is it? That's hole number one. I'm going to be extremely skeptical about all this.
About all what?
I'm assuming you've never been injured. Would I be wrong in that assumption?
Dad's been injured.
Is the child correct?
Yes, sir. In college, I was in a car accident.
Was it serious?
He couldn't play football anymore.
That's hole number two. That's a big one.
Mr. Price, can we talk about the note that you left on my car?
I've studied the form of comics intimately. I spent a third of my life in a hospital bed with nothing else to do but read. I believe comics are our last link to an ancient way of passing on history. The Egyptians drew on walls. Countries all over the world still pass on knowledge through pictorial forms.
Hold on, pause it, because I know the Negro's mind is like, oh, comic books. Comics have what in them? And what else? Pictures and what? What is it? What is it ultimately? A story. It's a short form story. It's an illustrated story. It's a what? It's a parable. Run it back and hit play. I know you're watching it and go going, okay, it's a comic book now. It's not the point. Hit play.
I spent a third of my life in a hospital bed with nothing else to do but read. I believe comics are our last link to an ancient way of passing on history. The Egyptians drew on walls. Countries all over the world still pass on knowledge through pictorial forms. I believe comics are a form of history that someone, somewhere felt or experienced. Then, of course, those experiences and that history got chewed up in the commercial machine, got jazzed up, made titillating cartoons for the sale rack. This city has seen its share of disasters. I watched the aftermath of that plane crash. I watched the carnage of the hotel fire. I watched the news, waiting to hear a very specific combination of words, but they never came. Then one day I saw a news story about a train accident, and I heard them. There is a sole survivor, and he is miraculously unharmed. I have something called osteogenesis imperfecta. It's a genetic disorder. I don't make a particular protein very well, and it makes my bones very low in density, very easy to break. I've had 54 breaks in my life, and I have the tamest version of this disorder, type 1. There are type 2, type 3, type 4. Type 4s don't last very long. So that's how it popped into my head. If there is someone like me in the world, and I am at one end of the spectrum, couldn't there be someone else, the opposite of me at the other end? Someone who doesn't get sick, who doesn't get hurt like the rest of us. And he probably doesn't even know it. The kind of person these stories are about. person put here to protect the rest of us, to guard us.
Well, I don't know if y'all caught it, if you're spiritually watching it. But the point he's making is on the other end of the world, there's God somewhere. Somebody that can't get hurt. Somebody that doesn't have an illness. So there's me who's weak and feeble, but on the other end of the earth, there has to be the exact opposite. That's what Esau knows. This movie is about y'all, right? I don't know if you ever seen this movie. It's called Unbreakable. They just took the white man and put him in the Israelite position. But the guy who's teaching him, his name is Elijah, and he's bringing him to remembrance that he's a God, right? That's the point. Read it real quick, Malachi chapter 4, verse 5. Bodo, you could cut this out, but this is for them in case they don't understand. Maybe you keep it. I don't know. But Malachi chapter 4 and verse 5.
Malachi chapter 4 and verse 5. Behold, I will send you Elijah,
right? Elijah, go ahead.
The prophet.
That's what he was called in the movie. His name was Elijah, right? Go ahead.
Before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
Before the Lord returns, Elijah or John the Baptist came. This is what he did. Go ahead.
And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children.
So he let the children know you are the sons of God. He reminded them of who they were. That's what he was saying to them. If I'm the person who's weak and feeble, there's got to be somebody greater who's the savior of everybody on earth. So Elijah came in these last days and he woke us up as well. He told us what we were going to be, gods on the earth. But the reason we can't see it is because spiritually, right, our nemesis is getting the best of us. Right? Give me 1 John chapter 3 and verse 7. That's what's happening spiritually. The evil, the sin, the devil, right? That's how Christians say it's just the devil. Satan's against me, right? It's getting the best of us. And we don't actually understand what that means. 1 John 3 and 7.
1 John chapter 3 and verse 7. Little children, let no man deceive you. He that doeth righteousness is righteous, even as he is righteous.
Read.
He that committeth sins is of the devil.
He that committeth sin is of who?
Is of the devil.
So there are people on earth designed to commit sin because their father's the devil. Go ahead.
For the devil sinned from the beginning.
He said the devil sinned from the beginning. He's referring to Cain. He said the devil sinned from the beginning. Go ahead.
For this purpose the Son of God was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil.
So Christ came in order to destroy the works of the devil. That was the purpose of him coming. Read.
Whosoever is born of God doth not commit sin.
Whosoever is born of God, born. Whosoever is born again of God, who learns who they are, learns their nationality, right? Who is the Son of God, they will not commit sin. Go ahead.
For his seed remaineth in him, and he cannot sin because he is born of God.
Read.
In this, the children of God are manifest.
This is what's happening on a spiritual level. This is what I'm telling you. I got to look at this class spiritually because I know y'all thinking carnally. He's saying the people that commit sin on the earth, the white man, the so-called white man, they are the children of Satan on earth, manifest. And God has the children of God, the sons of God, who are on earth, manifest. Their responsibility is to keep the law until the end. And the children of Satan's job is to sin until the end. So when you catch yourself up in sin, you are manifesting yourself as a child of the devil. That's what he's saying. When you catch yourself in lust and adultery, what it's going to do is it's going to make you forget that you're God, that you're the sons of God. Go ahead.
And the children of the devil, whosoever doth righteousness, who doth not righteousness, is not of God, neither he that loveth not his brother.
Read John 8 and 44. So what we got to understand is you might look at a person, but there's demons walking around you. When you go to work and Billy is talking to you, you might just look at Billy and go, Billy's a nice guy. That's the devil in a body. That's the son of Satan in a body. You ain't got to go tell him, hey, you're the son of Satan. That don't benefit you. But spiritually, you have to be able to start to walk around spiritually, understand what's going on. If you watch movies and video games and cartoons, what he's saying is there's a right spirit in some men and there's a wrong spirit in some men. That's what's happening on a spiritual level. Every day you're in the midst of this battle. But the way we walking through it right now is carnal. We're not paying attention to what's going on. John 8 and 44.
John chapter 8 and verse 44. Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do.
If you're committed to doing the lust of your father, then you are of your father the devil. Your father spiritually is the devil. That's what he's telling you. That's who you connected to. That's who you're going to become. That's who you're going to manifest yourself as in your physical body. Read.
He was a murderer from the beginning.
He hated his brother. He murdered his brother from the beginning. Go ahead.
And abode not in the truth.
He abode not in the truth, right? Also, give me Tobit chapter 3 and verse 7. Let's see. Let's keep looking at it. Tobit 3 and verse 7. So what we got to understand, on a spiritual level, it's not just you looking at people and you saying, okay, this brother's like this or this brother's like that. These are spirits that are around you. Every brother on your left or on your right is a spirit. They're either going to move in the spirit of the Lord or they're going to move in the spirit of the devil. The way you're able to identify who's moving in the spirit of the Lord or the spirit of the devil is the book that's just on your lap. He gave you the tool book to identify the spirits. But we often walk carnal, so we're not paying attention to that. We're just walking around like, hey, it is what it is. I'm going to show you something. Tobit 3 and verse 7 and 8. We're going to read 7 and 8.
Tobit chapter 3 and verse 7. It came to pass the same day that in Exploitation, a city of Media, Sarah the daughter of Raguel was also reproached by her father's maid.
So this is Sarah, right? If you read this story, Sarah, I think, was married about 7 times. So she couldn't have been an ugly sister. But watch what it says about what was happening to her husbands. Go ahead.
Because that she had been married to 7 husbands.
Read.
Whom Asmodeus, the evil spirit, had killed before they had lain with her.
So on the outside, Sarah was beautiful, like some of your wives. You might go home and say, my wife is beautiful. She looked good. But before anybody could lie with her, she was choking niggas to death. 7 of them. What you think the 4th one had to be saying? What type of spirit he had to have on him to say, you know what? Oh, man, shoot. That was the other 3. Other 3 got choked to death. I'm not going to get choked to death. I could fight. Then Asmodeus, the spirit that was in her, got his hands on his neck and choked a grown man to death. Y'all got to understand the strength it takes to choke a grown man to death. This is a woman. She choked 7 grown men to death. Now, sisters typically like brothers stronger than them, bigger than them. So she choked 7 grown men to death because of the spirit that was in her. You might have looked at her and said, oh, she's beautiful. But there was a spirit in her, just like there's spirits in all of y'all. Because this is a spiritual walk. But when we only look at things carnal on a fleshy level, you'll look at her and go, she's beautiful. She should be my wife. And she might choke you to death. Because Asmodeus is in her. That's who's in her. But you looking at her going, she's beautiful. This is my wife. She look good. Then you're on your deathbed. Read it again.
Verse 8. Because that she had been married to 7 husbands, whom Asmodeus the evil spirit had killed, before they had lain with her. Dost thou not know, said they, that thou hast strangled thine husbands? Thou hast had already 7 husbands. Neither was thou named after any of them.
None of them got to lie with her, so she was like, it was like she never got married. She was still a virgin, still good to go. She just choked out all 7. As soon as they got in the bedchamber, they got the headlock, and they was out of there. Woke up in the morning, she's sitting on the body. I'm telling you, what was number 4, 5, 6 thinking? 7. Go to Tobit chapter 6 and verse 17. These are the things you got to think about. They had to be moving carnal. Tobit 6 and 17. I would have wanted to know where her gym was at. Tobit 6 and 17.
Tobit chapter 6 and verse 17. And the devil shall smell it and flee away.
It's making reference to when they came into the bedchamber, right? That they needed to do something, burn a fish. I forget what it was, right? The fish gills. Jump up to verse 16.
Verse 16. And when thou shalt come into the marriage chamber, thou shalt take the ashes of perfume, and shalt lay upon them some of the heart and liver of the fish, and shall make a smoke with it.
Read.
And the devil shall smell it and flee away.
So it said the devil, the spirit that was on her, shall smell it and flee away. So what he's saying is there's a spirit in her. You might see her physically, but the devilish spirit in her needs to flee away. So he taught him how to flee the spirit away, right? This is how Tobias was able to marry her. Go to Tobit chapter 8 and verse 1. So when you're looking at things as a God on earth, you can't be looking at people and just going, those are people. They have spirits in them. They all have spirits in them. Some to manifest themselves as the devil, some to manifest themselves as the sons of God. You have to pay attention. You can't just be walking around here not understanding what's going on, or you will not make it. Read that.
Tobit chapter 8 and verse 1. And when they had supped, they brought Tobias in unto her. And as he went, he remembered the words of Raphael, and took the ashes of the perfumes, and put the heart and the liver of the fish thereupon, and made a smoke therewith. The which smell, when the evil spirit had smelled, he fled into the utmost parts of Egypt, and the angel bound him.
So the angel trapped him in Egypt. So what happens, give me Revelation chapter 20 and verse 2. What happens to spirits that y'all don't see, again, is certain areas have a certain spirit. Like LA has a gang-banging spirit. The gang-banging from LA was taken from LA to the four corners of the earth. That spirit is still in LA. It don't matter how many years removed we are from that era, there's still people who claim Crips and Bloods in that area because that is the spirit in LA. Chicago has a murderous spirit. There's a demon there that's bound there. But we read the Bible, we read it like carnal men. We look at things like carnal men. We're like, yo, them dudes just need more money and they're going to be all right. No, on a spiritual level, what's happened is the Lord said, take this spirit and put it there. And then it's going to operate there on everybody that manifests themselves as the son of the devil and that does evil. I'm going to put that spirit on them. Read that.
Revelation chapter 20 and verse 2. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years.
So Satan at some point is going to be completely bound, right? But the point you got to see is spirits are bound to certain places because they all answer to God, the Father. So there's a spirit on San Diego making a Negro be lazy and lackadaisical. You may not think it's there, but it's there. There's a spirit of being laid back in California in general. Those are all spirits. Everything about you is spiritual. That's what you got to start to see. So what is the spirit that is in the place I'm in? Everybody here is smoking weed and chilling. So if you find yourself in that spirit, it's because the spirit of the demon that's here is upon you. That's what you got to start to look at. Give me 1 Corinthians chapter 2 now, verse 1. When we start looking at things spiritually, it's different. 1 Corinthians 2 and verse 1.
1 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 1. And I, brethren, when I came to you, came not with excellency of speech or of wisdom, declaring unto you the testimony of God. For I determined not to know anything among you.
For time's sake, jump down to verse 7.
Verse 7. But we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery, even the hidden wisdom, which God ordained before the world unto our glory.
See, the Lord said that this wisdom in this Bible had to be spoken in a parable, right? Had to be in a mystery so that you would have the glory, only you and no one else. That's how it was ordained before the world started. He said, I'm going to make the Bible into a parable, an illustrated story, so only you all can go down on earth and understand it, and you all are going to be able to explain to people the mysteries in it. Go ahead.
Which none of the princes of this world knew. For had they known it, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory.
If they understood the Bible, they wouldn't have killed Christ. They would have said, hold on, wait, we're going to get judged for that when he returns. But they didn't understand because he hid it from them. The only people he showed it to was the prophets, the sons of God. Go ahead.
But as it is written, I have not seen nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him.
Read.
But God hath revealed them unto us by his spirits. For the Spirit searcheth.
By his what?
By his Spirit.
Go ahead.
For the Spirit searcheth all things.
You have a spirit in you that searches all things. Go ahead.
Yea, the deep things of God.
You have a spirit in you that's searching for the deep things of God. Your flesh wants to sin. It wants to do what the devil wants to do, evil. But you have a spirit in you that's cleaving to the Lord, that's holding on with everything it got to figure out what does the Lord want from me in this spirit. That's the spiritual part of you. That's what you got to lean into. Go ahead.
For what man knoweth the things of a man, save the spirits of man which is in him? Even so the things of God knoweth no man, but the Spirit of God.
The Spirit of God that's in you, the portion of the Spirit of God that's in you knows the things of God. That's why you understand the Bible the little bit you do. That's why you can go in it and you can get clarity the way you do. That's why the classes start to make sense to you, because the Spirit of God that's in you is dealing with you. That's what it is. You start to grow in the Spirit. Give me real quick before we move on. What's that? John 6 and 63. Give me that. John 6 and 63. I was thinking about this. I didn't have it written down. But watch what it says here.
John chapter 6 and verse 63. It is the Spirit that quickeneth.
It's the Spirit that changes. Go ahead.
The flesh profiteth nothing. The word.
The flesh what?
The flesh profiteth nothing.
Your body could be thrown in a trash can. The Lord don't give a damn about your body. Read it again.
The flesh profiteth nothing.
Read it one more time.
The flesh profiteth nothing.
There's no benefit to the physical body you're in. It's just a place to hold your soul while you're on this earth so you can navigate in this world. That's what we don't understand. We so caught up in our flesh that we cannot see spiritual things. He said, your flesh profit you nothing. That's why he said you got to be willing to die for this, because it means nothing. Your body means nothing on a spiritual level. But when you don't look at things spiritually, you put value on your body. I'm not saying don't have good health. I'm not saying don't take care of your body. But what I'm saying to you is, in a spiritual world, which is what the one we're going to be in, your spirit is what matters. Is that built up? Is that connected to the Father? Is that what you focused on? Are you navigating and paying attention to your spirit? Or are you focused on your carnal flesh? It don't mean nothing to the Lord. It will not profit you in the day of judgment. Go ahead.
The words that I speak unto you, they are spirits, and they are life.
Jump back.
1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 9.
Verse 12, where you was at?
Verse 12.
How you going to jump back to 9? Come on, 12, man. Stay with me.
Now we have received not the spirit of the
Sheesh.
world, but the Spirit which is of God, that we might know the things that are freely given to us of God.
Read.
Which things also we speak, not in the words which man's wisdom teacheth, but which the Holy Ghost teacheth, comparing spiritual things with spiritual.
The law and the Spirit of God is what teaches you spiritual things. But watch what it says in verse 14.
But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God.
The man that's caught up in his flesh, like we read in Romans 7 and verse 14, the one that's carnal, he can't receive those spiritual things. So a brother will tell him, thou shalt not kill, and it won't connect. He won't really get the layers to that. A brother will say, you're not supposed to have hatred. Or, hey, you need counsel. And he won't get the spiritual effects to what will happen to him if he doesn't get counsel. Right? He'll say, I don't need counsel. I'm good. In the flesh, I'm a grown man. But spiritually, he's not paying attention to what impact that is on his spirit. He don't care because he's natural. He won't receive the advice he's given. Read it again.
But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned.
Because a man that's paying attention to his spirit is going to walk spiritually. So when he hears spiritual things, it's going to click. He's going to go, okay, dang, I got to do that. I got to do that. I got no other choice. That's the Lord talking to me. That's the Spirit of the Lord saying it through that, brother. Okay, I got to deal with that. I got to fix that problem. I got to move in that direction. But the carnal man will say, oh, that brother just don't like me. He nitpicking. He kind of mean anyway. That's what the carnal man will say. And that's what many of us have become in this earth. Carnal men, but we're supposed to turn back to being the gods now. That's what the Lord wants from us. Keep reading.
But he that is spiritual judgeth all things.
Okay, give me John chapter 9 and verse 39.
John chapter 9 and verse 39. And Jesus said, for judgment I am come into this world, that they which see not might see.
He said, they that see not, they that have no spiritual awareness, that don't have their eyes open spiritually, that they might see not. Go ahead.
And they that which see might be made blind.
So they that can't see, meaning they're in sin and admit it, I'm going to give them vision. I'm going to give them understanding of what's going on a spiritual level. But the people, the pastors, the deacon, the bishops, the ones in the church, the ones that's in Islam, the ones that think they deep and they smart, I want them blind. I want them to not be able to see what's coming. When it hit them in their forehead, they're not going to be able to react. That's why he said when Babylon gets destroyed, it's going to be in 1 hour. What can you prepare in an hour? You can't prepare in an hour. That's why he wants it that way. The Lord is, I'm telling you, if you understand what's happening in a spiritual sense, the Lord don't play no games. Read that again.
Verse 39. And Jesus said, for judgment I am come into this world, that they which see not might see, and that they which see might be made blind.
Read.
And some of the Pharisees which were with him heard these words, and said unto him, are we blind also? Jesus said unto them, if ye were blind, ye should have no sin. But now ye say, we see. Therefore, your sin remaineth.
And that's how many of us roll. We say, I understand spiritually. My spiritual eyes open. I'm new. I got the Bible. I know some precepts. I don't need counsel. I don't need guidance. I got it on my own. So when you say that, he said, because of that, I'm going to leave you blind. I'm going to destroy you. Give me 2 Peter chapter 1 and verse 4. He said, because of the way you're moving, because you got to the point where you think you know everything and you know what's going on and you don't need guidance and you don't need help and you're no longer humble, I'm going to leave you blind. Because you think you see. You think you ain't got to lean on nobody. You don't need advice in the spiritual realm. because you're fleshly older, right? Because maybe you got a better job, right? Maybe you got certain situations going on. You think on a carnal sense, I'm above that brother. I know better carnally. But in a spiritual realm, that brother's above you. And because you don't look at things spiritually, you don't view it that way. Therefore, you're going to remain blind and get put to death. That's what he's saying. 2 Peter 1 and verse 4.
2 Peter chapter 1 and verse 4. Whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these ye might be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust.
Damn, that's heavy. Keep going.
And beside this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue.
That scripture will take me down a rabbit hole. Read verse 4 again.
Verse 4. Whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these ye might be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust.
He's saying that I will give you access to being spiritually powerful if you can escape the sins that you're dealing with. You have been given promises, the status of being a God on earth, but your lust is what's keeping you back from those. We have to escape those things. Go ahead.
And besides this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge.
He said give to yourself faith, right? And then virtue, and to virtue knowledge, right? Faith is going into your ability to understand the Bible. Virtue is going into moral excellence, right? And then knowledge is going into knowing the laws of God, knowing where they are, knowing how to break down the Bible, rightly dividing the word. Go ahead.
And to knowledge temperance.
Temperance, having patience, right? Knowing not to be too hot or too cold. He said you need to have these things. Go ahead.
And to temperance, patience.
Read.
And to patience, godliness.
If you have that patience and that temperance, you'll move godly. The way you move will be spiritual. You'll be on a godly level. Go ahead.
And to godliness, brotherly kindness.
Read.
And to brotherly kindness, charity.
Go ahead.
For if these things be in you and abound, they make you that ye shall neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Read.
But he that lacketh these things is blind.
Read it one more time.
But he that lacketh these things is blind.
Okay, one more time.
But he that lacketh these things is blind.
So what he's telling you there is, if you lack these things that we just read about, you're blind spiritually. You're blind spiritually. You don't get access to those promises because you lack that faith. You lack that temperance, right? You lack that brotherly kindness, right? You lack that charity. All these different things that he mentioned. He said, he that lack these things is blind. Go ahead.
And cannot see afar off, and have forgotten that he was purged from his old sins.
He forgot that he had old sins on him, things that the Lord purged from him. And then he got to a point where he stopped growing. He stopped developing these things. Or he still had sins that he was dealing with, and he never got over them completely. He fell back into those lusts. So when you come in here, you have to continue to elevate is the point he's making. You got to continue to elevate. If you don't have these things, you must get these things or you're still blind. That means you still don't understand the parables. You still don't understand the dark sayings, the stories like you think you do, because you still got these things going on, but you still blind. Go ahead.
Wherefore the rather, brethren, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. For if ye do these things, ye shall never fall.
For example, right? Give me Proverbs 6 and verse 32. A brother will say, I have those things in me, right? I can see. But let's look at some examples. We're going to look at some sins that brothers commit. Proverbs 6 and verse 32.
Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 32. But whoso committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding.
He what?
Lacketh understanding.
So in order for you to commit adultery with a woman, you must lack understanding. Meaning you don't spiritually see what it's going to do to your family, what it's going to do to people around you. You don't see that spiritually. So you go off and you sleep with a woman, you set it up, you sleep with her, you smash, you do all of that. And you don't understand what it's doing to your spirit. You don't understand what it's going to do to the people around you when you commit adultery. You lack understanding. Regardless of the fact that you might have a certain title, regardless of the fact that you might know the Bible to a certain level, it shows that you lack understanding. That's what the Bible says. But many of us will say, we see. I see. I got clarity. We got to examine ourselves and say, do I truly see? Am I truly looking at this right in a spiritual sense? Because how could I commit adultery if I was clearly looking at things? That's the point. You must have been blinded at some point. Read it again.
But whoso committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. he that doeth it destroyeth his own soul.
You're destroying your own spirit. So if you know it was a destruction to your own spirit to sleep with that woman on a fleshly plane, why would you do it? You would say, hold on, wait, I don't want to destroy myself for some coochie, for 15 seconds of fame. It's not worth it. Go ahead.
You're not only destroying your soul, you're destroying your wife's soul. Because two shall become what? One flesh, right? So if you are blinded to the point that you're going to step outside of the laws of God to commit adultery, you're not only destroying yourself, you're destroying your wife and your family.
Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is men leading by example. Nation is women's support. Nation is children with role models.